the UFC is, I feel like for us UFC fighters, is it is the Super Bowl. It is the finals of mixed martial arts.
When you were a kid, did you dream about being a UFC fighter? And what's it like now that you're here?
I'm a little old. The UFC wasn't even a thing back then. I was watching the WWE and always wanting to be one of those guys, except for I can't talk that good. You hit the nail on the head with the McGregor walkouts have always, those have been so special. The only guy I want that outside of the UFC that I want to beat up is the one that everybody wants to beat up, and that's Jake Paul. Get out of here, man.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to UFC fighter Adam Fugitt up against Islam Dulatov very soon. Great to see you, Adam. It's been a while. Tough test for you. This guy's 11-1, an absolute finishing merchant. They call him the Ripper. But I guess when you're fighting at this level, everyone's kind of scary on paper, right? And it's not your first rodeo. So how do you deal with this mentally? Because he's never fought in the UFC proper. He's a Contender Series guy. So you're kind of welcoming him. What's the mindset?
I mean, the mindset is just like any fight. I'm gonna go in my training camp. I'm gonna put together the best version of myself that I can, and yeah, I look forward to welcoming him to the UFC. February 22nd.
When ordinary people look at fights, like I touched upon, everybody's scary. But where do you stand on that concept of a dude being scary? Because at this level, is that fair to say everybody's scary in inverted commas?
Everybody except for me, I guess. No, hey, this is the level where we're fighting the best of the best, okay? And you know, yeah, everybody up here is a monster, and you got to be prepared. And I think that that's part of the drive for me is I want to fight the best I can and reach the highest level that I can. So whoever they put in front of me is the next best guy, and I'm going in there to show them that I'm better that night.
I remember I was looking back at your last fight in LFA against Solomon Renfro, and you were a big underdog for that, knocked the dude out in 43 seconds. So does that play into it sometimes that it's not about somebody's expectations or the bookie's expectations, it's all up to you?
Oh, what my buddy just make me? He said, I'm here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm almost all out of bubble gum. So all we got left is kicking ass. Yeah, I'm used to being the underdog. I'm used to being the overlooked, and I'm used to being the lesser favorite or the not favorite on the bookies or on the Vegas odd makers. So this is no news to me. So
And for you, how do you deal with fear? How do you feel about fear? Because Mike Tyson talked about it famously that everybody's scared. Are you scared? But do you buzz off that fear? Like, this is something I think that people who've never fought love to know. Because fear, I think everybody feels it, right? Even probably Roger Federer when he was going to go play tennis, but it's something you kind of buzz off in the end, right?
right, there's steal it from my sports psychologist. You're always going to have rope grabbers. That are going to drag you into the fears and the what ifs and the unpredictable outcomes, and where you can't live in the future thinking about the future too much because you're going to get anxious, and if you live in the past you're going to be depressed. So what's the best place to be? And that's right in the present. So I always I practice basic breathing techniques and finding my self-care routine to keep myself locked into what it is I'm doing in that moment. And so yeah, that's how I try to deal with my fears. And by the time they shut the cage door, if the fears want to creep in, that's I feel like that's a good place for them to creep into, is right there when they lock that cage. Give me that little bit extra awareness in that moment.
Why do you love this? What's special about that feeling for you?
I just love the challenge. To be a little cliche, it's always something that's just really spoken to me. And um, I don't know. I just question how do I know everything about myself if I haven't put myself through this type of stress, right? How can I overcome? Um, so yeah, There's always just been this calling to me. I love this sport, for all that it is, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
When you were a kid, did you dream about being a UFC fighter? And what's it like now that you're here? I think it was Casuals Corner the other day, I think was talking about how the UFC is just different in terms of, anybody who's been around regional promotions, the UFC in every facet is just the professionalism. It feels like the big time. Could you describe it a bit for us? What's it like for you now as a UFC fighter?
Sure. To answer your first question on that, I'm a little old. The UFC wasn't even a thing back then. I was watching the WWE and always wanting to be one of those guys, except for I can't talk that good, so there was no way I was going to be a an entertainment type guy. But yeah, watching Stone Cold Steve Austin and all those guys. But then I found wrestling and realized like, oh, high school wrestling isn't professional wrestling, and we just kind of trailed off into that. And um, but as far as my experience between the UFC and the regional promotions, and you know, I it's tough, right? Anybody can go down tomorrow and sign up to be a professional fighter. And I always wanted to be a professional athlete. But when you're on that level of the regional scene, you don't always feel, or you don't feel like you get the recognition of being a professional athlete. You don't, these, there's a big difference between somebody who's fighting regionally or somebody that's either going to the World Series or the NBA finals or NHL finals or the Super Bowl. There's a big difference there. So that's what the UFC is. I feel like for us UFC fighters, is it is the Super Bowl. It is the finals of mixed martial arts.
And what you talked about the WWE. What about walkouts for you? What does it feel like walking out? And we've seen like some big style walkouts in recent years from, Adesanya, maybe McGregor for the big fights. But it feels like Japan and maybe other KSW promotions have the best walkout game. Like, where do you stand on walkouts and what would you like to see in that front? Would you like to see the UFC go a bit bigger?
That I guess I really haven't seen those other walkouts. You hit the nail on the head with the McGregor walkouts have always those have been so special. I remember the days of BJ Penn running out, and GSP. Um, to Cowboy Cerrone, he's got his own person. He's got that. When that music hits, you know who's coming out, and I think that's what I've always tried to strive for. Is I want when my music hits, I want them to recognize who's coming out, and I want it would very much appease me if one of these days the crowd picked up, like a thunderclap or something to encourage me to come out, just to revel in that moment. But yeah, I love the walkout, and I think the UFC does it. In my opinion, I feel like they do it the best.
So, in terms of the situation at welterweight right now, I feel like Bilal gets a lot of stick. How do you feel about him as a champion? Is he a worthy champion for you?
I mean, he may not get the finishes that fans want to see, but well, he's gonna basically grind you into nothing, for 5 rounds. So, um, you know, and who knows if he doesn't develop that Khabib style of like, oh, I can pin you here and I'm gonna just beat on you until the ref goes, yeah, that's not intelligent defense. So, that's always in his cards. But yeah, I see somebody that is literally you have to prepare for 5 rounds of just a dogfight because he'll go in there and he'll be on you every second. So yeah, he's definitely earned that title as the champion, and we'll see how he does here against Rachmanov in the future.
Yeah, that fight is gonna be interesting. Is Shavkat gonna take the belt from him, do you think?
After watching him versus Gary, and I'm not wasn't the biggest fan of Gary, not for all the other stuff, but watching him really make it difficult for Rachmanov to take him down. I think you could almost say that the first 2 rounds, Shavkat only really won those rounds off of just control time, of pushing him up against the cage. I don't really feel like he got the better of him in the stand up whatsoever. It was just a lot of control time that happened. And then I think the third round, if I remember this right, I think I gave Gary the third round. He finally put some good combinations together. He avoided getting pushed up against the fence. Fourth round, we got back to the same thing. I think the fourth rounds where Rachmanov started kind of going low and on those takedowns and got him to the ground a couple of times. And then I think I gave Gary the fifth round for avoiding the takedown and then getting the back take. And I think he just did more and threatened more. So that's how I scored that card. But in terms of going forward with Rachmanov and Bilal's going to be on your legs, man. And I don't know how I like the upper body Greco-Roman style wrestling that Rachmanov has shown that he seems to cater to, if that makes any sense, against Bilal. I could see him kind of going right into Bilal's game, wanting to tie upper body and getting his legs taken out from underneath him. So I think he's going to really have to figure out what he wants to do in this fight and where he's going to have the advantage.
Are you surprised by the rise of Carlos Cortez? Because he was on my radar because I'm out here in Asia. He fought in Full Metal Dojo. He fought Dave Leduc in Bangla Stadium in Muay Thai and lost. And then I'm seeing him like absolutely fly in the UFC with a base of cigarettes and whiskey, which is pretty interesting.
That's a man that gets in there and tries to hurt people, right? He definitely embodies that. What did Eddie Bravo use? Bang Thai ready or Bang Thai ready? No, Bangkok ready is what it was, right? He definitely embodies that whole thing. He's ready to go. He's going to get in there and he does a lot of things well on the feet. I was just watching some tape of him the other night, but really it comes down to every time he throws, he's trying to hurt you, and he's fearless. He's very confident in his skills on the feet, as well as his takedown defense. He's very confident in that. So, from what I've seen, I'm not surprised. Like he does a lot of things well, and until somebody can really expose, what he doesn't, I think we're going to continue to see this rise from him.
You seem like a real student of the game in MMA. Have you got yourself an ultimate goal? Are you a goals-driven person? How far can you go in this? You're super well-rounded. You don't seem to have holes in your game. You seem to have your bases covered. So where can you take this?
That's a good question. I don't have an answer to. My dream has always been to shoot for that, shoot for the title. That's what we're all here for. You know, at my age, people are going to ask me, all the time, can you make that? No, I don't have the answer. Time will tell. I've always been my own worst enemy, right? So just trying to grow as a martial artist and put everything together, both from, skills and tools and perspective, as well as up here. This thing could, the mental side of the game can end you faster than the physical side of it. So for me, it's just how good can I make myself? How far along can I take this thing? And that's all I'm shooting for. Is to climb the ladder and climb as high as I can. And when it's all said and done, I'll look back on it and be like, yeah, I made it there. I did that.
I feel like the pay question never goes away, but how is it for you? Do you find it for where you're at right now, making a living in the UFC? Are you happy with the pay structure?
I I've been a broke fighter, for shoot, as long as I've been doing this thing. And I think I said this on the other ones is, I fully expect to be a broke fighter when I'm done, but there's the challenge in it, right? Is can I take with what I'm making now, can I take and I turn that into something for myself later on, without losing the focus of what I'm doing right now. So as far as all that goes right now, I mean, I'm getting paid more than I ever did to fight. And if I was only to get in this sport for the money, then I would have been, greatly disappointed a long time ago, So yeah, I'm happy with what I'm getting. I just got a new contract and I got a new pay bump. So hey, it's on me to go and the money I make to put it to good use, and that's the challenge I got to take. And yeah, so you won't. It is what it is, and I'm happy with what I'm getting, and it's up to me to make more of it.
Congratulations on the new deal, man. That must be a great feeling. You've said you won't do BKFC, but if the money was really good, you know, is anything possible? Where might we see you? We know that UFC fighters in boxing is becoming a big thing as well. Is there any celebrities you want to beat up?
Oh man, the only guy I want the outside of the UFC that I want to beat up is the one that everybody wants to beat up, and that's Jake Paul. Get out of here, man. I don't know. Maybe I got to give this guy some flowers, someday, but I ain't give him his flowers today. I can't do it, man. Like he is he's entertainment, and I'm not taking anything away from the WWE wrestlers. It may be scripted, but they put their bodies through, a ton. So I'm not taking anything away from him, but that's what I feel like Jake Paul is a little bit. He's a little bit of a script, and it's going to go a certain way. And I don't think he puts his body through as much as what anywhere close to what those WWE guys do. So if anybody should be mad, it should be us athletes and the WWE guys. And what it comes down to is Jake Paul be, rich and famous as long as people will continue to watch Jake Paul. So, you know, stop buying those pay-per-views, stop paying any kind of attention to that man because I don't believe he deserves what he gets.
Are you a boxing fan? Do you watch boxing?
I do watch some boxing.
I'm writing a piece at the moment on how much Roberto Duran has meant to a lot of fighters. I mean, Jorge Masvidal, that's his favorite fighter. I think I saw Mike Perry in a Duran t-shirt the other day. I was backstage at the Masvidal Diaz fight, and everyone went nuts, Rogan and Dana, just to see Duran. Why do you think that guy had such a big impact?
Oh, you know, I've watched Roberto Duran versus Hagler, Roberto Duran versus Leonard, Duran versus Hearns. Those are all amazing fights. And I don't know what the odds were going into those, but I'm telling you right now, if we were watching those in real time, I'm sitting there going, it's going to be Roberto Duran who's winning this one. That's just kind of the embodiment of the warrior that he was. And I think that's where he gets all that respect from us fighters is he was he was a dog, man. He was going to get in there, and he was technically good enough to hang with anybody. And if it start with two even, he was going to bite down that mouth guard, and he was going to go for the finish. So um, and then just his whole backstory coming out. I don't know all of it, but we've seen some movies. He come from the poverty and he built himself up through, and you know um, so yeah, there's a lot of respect there for that man.
I enjoyed that Hands of Stone movie. I think my favorite depiction of MMA is Kingdom, and of course Tom Hardy movie Warrior was pretty cool. What's your favorite depiction of MMA in Hollywood?
I mean, I did like Hands of Stone. Fighter, you know, the brother versus brother thing. I don't know if I can, if I like, I mean, I liked the action in it. I don't so much care for the story. You got to throw the Rockies in there, just because they're classics. Um, but I'm definitely blanking on some of them. Ollie, that was another great one. What was the Denzel Washington one that I don't think my parents Hurricane.
Hurricane.
Hurricane. I might, I have to go back and rewatch that one, but I don't. I don't think I was allowed to watch it when it first came out. I was too young. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't have a total favorite. I guess you could say, but I tend to watch all of them. There's a new series out that I just heard about. Yes, Andor. The actor in Andor
Okay.
plays a manager in this new one that's on Hulu, and he's a manager. Sounds like a corrupt manager. for this boxer. I can't remember which boxer it is they're talking about, but
They've
I'm gonna
got
watch it anyway.
they've got Russell Crowe coming out to one championship in January to film a movie called The Beast in Me about one fighter, so that should be pretty interesting. Um,
Interesting.
2025, what's the one fight you most want to see? A lot of people talking about Jones Aspinall or Jones versus Poatan. Was it a welterweight fight? Like, which one is the one you'll definitely, everyone should buy a ticket for if it happens?
I don't think, I'm a pessimist. I don't know if Aspinall Jones is going to happen. That's just my opinion. I think it should happen. I think it would be a ton of money, but you also seen Ngannou coming out and calling out Jones again. Will I don't think the UFC will, but maybe that would be definitely one to watch. But I want to keep my eyes on Taporia. I only saw one article about it, and so I don't know if it's true or not, but like something about him vacating his belt and moving up. But I think it was just some clickbait stuff, but that's where it all starts, right? It starts with the clickbait and then it starts, growing, and pretty soon you get the whole story. So who knows? Let's see what Taporia does. I know he wants to move up and fight Islam, but Islam's like, I want my second belt, but is he, is he going to move up and fight his teammate Bilal? The Dagestanis have kind of shown that they're not really up for doing that. So maybe if Shavkat wins, maybe we see Islam move up. But I'm going to keep my eye on Taporia and see if he ends up moving up and fighting Islam.
I hear he wants to fight Charles, and they've been going back and forth. And for me, that is a belter of a fight.
I was just thinking title fights. If he wants to go over and fight Charles, I'd love to see that fight, especially after what Charles just did to Michael Chandler. Like, you're gonna have your A game on, Ilya, if you want to go up there and face that man.
That'd be so fun. All right, we'll wrap up with a quick fire. So, in the UFC right now, who is the best wrestler?
Hmm. You're gonna have to say Shemaev. Shemaev.
Absolute monster. Who has the best hands?
I think it's gotta be Taporia right now.
Who's the
You just finished
funniest?
Max Holloway. The funniest. Marab probably.
Who's the most annoying?
Oh, that would be Ian Gary.
Who's the best dressed?
I'm trying to think of who I've seen recently that's dressed up. Let's go Oliveira. He always comes in with those nice suits.
Yeah, very pearly white teeth as well.
Oh, yes.
Who would you want to have dinner with?
Who would I want to have dinner with? I don't know. Shoot. Let's go with Joe Rogan himself because I hear he always forks out the bill for those massive tomahawks, and I want to have one of those.
That is a very good call. Yeah, hooray for
Yeah.
tomahawks. And who would make the best movie star in the UFC?
I keep coming back to Poton, but he don't talk, man. He don't talk. I think you're gonna have to go with. I think you're gonna have to go with like a Adesanya because he's got a little bit of chops. He can spit. And if not him, then I'm not going down the Sean Strickland route. He can talk, but I don't think you want to see him in any movies. Um, yeah, I'll leave it there. We'll leave it at Izzy. Don't want to take any more time. Yours.
Who would you most want by your side in a street fight?
I mean, probably John Jones. I mean, undefeated.
And if you could fight anybody, past or present, in any weight class, who would it be?
Probably got to be GSP. That's who I grew up watching. If that's who was inspired by, and I guess it's not. If not him, it's got to be Anderson. Just the share the cage with one of those two guys. And if I could drop down, it would be Demetrius.
Absolute
Give me the
legends,
goat.
all of
Yeah, give
them.
me the legends. Give me the goats. Just for the experience.
You're the man, Adam. Thanks so much. I really appreciate this. It's been super fun.